I never thought my life would shatter on my birthday. The necklace wasn't mine. The beautiful diamond pendant wrapped in silver tissue and nestled in a velvet box. A gift I had watched my husband carefully select at the jewelry store weeks earlier wasn't meant for me. It was for her. The woman sitting beside my daughter at my own birthday dinner, smiling with those perfect teeth, her hand casually resting on my husband's arm. I remember the exact moment when I realized it. We were at Giovanni's, my favorite Italian restaurant in Westlake. The intimate lighting cast amber shadows across our faces, hiding the truth I couldn't yet see. Richard had insisted we go somewhere special for my 48th birthday. "You deserve it, Ellen," he'd said, kissing my forehead that morning. "After everything you've done for this family." Our daughter Madeline had driven up from her college in Boston, surprising me at the door with a bouquet of sunflowers. Her roommate Veronica had come too, a pretty girl with chestnut hair, who I'd only met once before at Parents' Weekend. "I hope you don't mind," Maddie had said, but Ronnie didn't have anywhere to go this weekend. I didn't mind. Of course I didn't mind. That's what mothers do. We make room at our tables. The waiter had just cleared our plates when Richard reached beneath his chair and pulled out the small blue box tied with a silver ribbon. I felt a flutter in my chest, the same flutter I felt when he proposed to me 26 years earlier on the beach in Cape Cod. His eyes were twinkling in that way they used to when we were young, before mortgages and responsibilities dulled our shine. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," he said, sliding the box across the table. I remember looking down at it, surprised by the elegance of the packaging. Richard wasn't usually one for elaborate gift wrapping. In recent years, my birthday presents had appeared in the shopping bags they came in, price tags hastily removed. "Open it, Mom," Maddie encouraged, leaning forward excitedly. I carefully untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Nestled inside was a platinum pendant with a teardrop diamond that caught the candlelight and scattered it in tiny rainbows across the white tablecloth. It was exquisite, and far more expensive than anything Richard had given me in years. "Richard?" I gasped, genuinely shocked. "It's beautiful. Do you like it?" he asked, his voice strangely tight. "I love it," I said, lifting it from the box. "Help me put it on?" I stood up and moved around the table, turning my back to him so he could fasten the clasp around my neck. His fingers felt cold against my skin. As I turned to retake my seat, I saw it, the look that passed between them. It was brief, but unmistakable, a secret glance between my husband and Veronica. Her eyes flashed with something, disappointment, anger. Then she looked down, fidgeting with her napkin. I've spent 26 years reading my husband's expressions. I know the slight furrow of his brow when he's frustrated. I know how his left eye twitches almost imperceptibly when he's lying. And I know that the look he gave her was one I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Desire, apology, promise. The conversations continued around me as I sat frozen, the necklace suddenly heavy against my collarbone. I watched Richard refill Veronica's wine glass before mine. I noticed how she leaned toward him when she laughed at his jokes. I observed the way their hands found reasons to brush against each other when passing the bread basket. How long had it been happening? How had I not seen it? The late nights at work, the sudden business trips, the renewed interest in his appearance. I looked at my daughter, chatting happily, completely oblivious to the betrayal unfolding in front of her. She was telling a story about her psychology professor, gesturing animatedly with her hands, my mother's hands, generations of women who believed in loyalty. I felt something inside me crack, a fault line splitting open, revealing years of overlooked signs. All those times I'd pushed away my suspicions, telling myself I was being paranoid. All those nights I'd lain awake, listening to the shower run as Richard washed away the evidence of where he'd been. And now, the final insult. A gift bought for another woman that had somehow found its way to me through some mistake or last-minute change of heart. "Mom?" Maddie's voice broke through my thoughts. "Are you okay? You look pale." I fingered the necklace, feeling its weight, its significance. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just feeling a little overwhelmed." I managed a smile. "It's not every day you turn 48. Richard raised his glass. "To Ellen," he said, his voice steady, practiced. "The most understanding woman I know." Our glasses clinked, the sound crystalline and fragile, like the life I thought I had. The necklace burned against my skin, a brand of betrayal. I've always been a practical woman. That's what people say about me at the dental office where I've worked as a hygienist for the past 23 years. "Ellen's so practical," they'd say when I brought homemade lunches instead of ordering takeout. "Ellen always knows what to do," they'd comment when the scheduling system crashed, and I pulled out my backup appointment book. Practical Ellen, reliable Ellen, the woman who could clean your teeth, raise a daughter, maintain a 4-bedroom colonial in the suburbs of Boston, and still have time to serve on the PTA. I grew up in Framingham, just outside the city, the daughter of a postal worker and a kindergarten teacher. We weren't poor, but we knew the value of money, the importance of making things last. My mother taught me to darn socks, to turn stale bread into bread pudding, to find beauty in careful maintenance rather than replacement. When I met Richard Sullivan at a friend's barbecue the summer after I finished dental hygiene school, I wasn't looking for a boyfriend. I was focused on building my career, paying off my student loans, eventually buying a small condo of my own. But Richard, tall, charming, with ambitions of starting his own financial advisory firm, swept me off my feet with his dreams and easy laugh. "You balance me," he'd say in those early days, wrapping his arms around me as we looked at the stars from the hood of his car. "You keep me grounded." I did ground him. I helped him set up his first office, answering phones between my shifts at the dental clinic. I typed his business proposals, edited his correspondence, created filing systems. When he gained his first major clients, I was the one who remembered their children's names, sent birthday cards, chose thoughtful Christmas gifts. When Maddie came along 3 years after our wedding, I rearranged my work schedule to 4 days a week. I managed our household budget to accommodate the reduced income. I clipped coupons, shopped sales, made baby food from scratch. Richard's business grew, and I made sure our family life ran smoothly so he could focus on work. "I couldn't do this without you, Elle," he'd say, kissing the top of my head before rushing out the door to client meetings. I believed him. Our house in Westlake is beautiful. A colonial with black shutters and a red door, maple trees in the front yard that turn brilliant orange in the fall. We bought it when Maddie was 4, anticipating more children who never came. I still love walking through the front door, smelling the lemon polish I use on the banisters, seeing the family photos arranged carefully on the walls. I take pride in those photos. Maddie's first day of kindergarten, her braces grin in middle school, her graduation cap slightly askew. Richard and me on our 20th anniversary trip to Italy, standing in front of the Trevi Fountain. Extended family gatherings at Thanksgiving. My sister's family mixed with Richard's brothers and their wives. A visual history of a successful life. The morning after my birthday dinner, I woke up early as usual. Richard was still sleeping, his back turned toward me. I studied the curve of his shoulder, the gray threading through his dark hair, and felt a hollowness expand inside my chest. I slipped out of bed quietly and went downstairs to make coffee. The house was silent. Maddie and Veronica sleeping in the guest rooms. I opened the French doors and stepped onto the back patio, wrapping my robe tightly around myself against the October chill. Our backyard stretched before me, the patio I had designed, the garden beds I had planted and maintained for 15 years, the swing set we had never taken down even though Maddie had outgrown it a decade ago. Every inch of this place bore the imprints of my care. The diamond pendant sat in its box on my dresser upstairs. I hadn't put it back on after we returned from the restaurant. I couldn't bear the feel of it against my skin. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, my friend since Maddie and her son were in playgroup together. "How was birthday dinner? Did Richard remember this year?" I stared at the message, my thumbs hovering over the screen. What could I say? That yes? He remembered. But the gift he gave me was meant for my daughter's 20-year-old roommate? I set the phone down without responding. The coffee maker beeped, and I went back inside to pour myself a cup. As I added a splash of cream, I caught my reflection in the window above the sink. I looked the same as I had yesterday morning, before I knew. Same shoulder-length brown hair with subtle highlights I maintained every 6 weeks. Same laugh lines around my eyes. Same Ellen. But I didn't feel like the same Ellen. That Ellen, practical, reliable Ellen, would have confronted Richard immediately. That Ellen would have demanded answers, would have fought for her marriage, would have done whatever was necessary to fix what was broken. This Ellen felt something different stirring inside, something unfamiliar and dangerous. I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Maddie appeared in the kitchen doorway, her hair tousled from sleep, looking so much like her younger self that my heart clenched. "Morning, Mom," she yawned, crossing the kitchen to give me a hug. "Coffee ready?" "Of course," I said, pouring her a cup and adding the almond milk she preferred. "Ronnie's still asleep," she said, taking a sip. "She was up late texting someone." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "Did you sleep well?" "Yeah, it's always nice to be back in my old bed." She smiled at me. "I'm glad we came home this weekend. School's been so stressful lately and I've missed you guys." "We've missed you too, sweetheart." I swallowed past the lump in my throat. "What would you like for breakfast? I could make those apple pancakes you love." "That would be amazing." She glanced at the ceiling as more footsteps sounded above us. "Sounds like Dad's up." "Should I go wake Ronnie?" "Let her sleep," I said quickly. "She's a guest. We can save some pancakes for her." As I mixed the batter, I listened to Maddie chat with Richard when he came downstairs. Their easy laughter, the familiar rhythm of their conversation. I watched them through the doorway as they sat at the table together, heads bent over something on Maddie's phone. My family, my life, everything I had built so carefully over decades. And somewhere upstairs, the other woman slept in our guest bed. The betrayal began to unfold like a carefully choreographed dance after breakfast. I was loading dishes into the dishwasher when Veronica finally appeared in the kitchen, wearing what was clearly one of Richard's old t-shirts over her leggings. "Good morning, Mrs. Sullivan," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sorry, I slept so late." I stared at the shirt, a faded blue Boston College shirt I'd given Richard for Christmas years ago. "Where did you get that?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Her hand fluttered to the fabric. "Oh, I borrowed it from Richard last night. I spilled something on my pajama top." Before I could respond, Richard appeared behind her, his hand briefly touching the small of her back before he caught himself. "I told her it was fine," he said casually. "It's just an old shirt." But it wasn't just an old shirt. It was my husband giving his clothing to another woman, a woman young enough to be his daughter, a woman who had slept under our roof. "There are clean towels in the guest bathroom if you want to shower," I said to Veronica, turning back to the dishes. I could feel Richard watching me, trying to gauge if I suspected anything. "Thanks, Mrs. Sullivan." She disappeared upstairs, and I felt Richard lingering in the doorway. "The pancakes were good," he said finally. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Ellen," he began, but Maddie bounded into the kitchen at that moment. "Mom, can we go shopping today? I need to get a dress for this department dinner next week." "Of course," I said, grateful for the interruption. "We can head out after everyone's ready." Richard cleared his throat. "Actually, I was thinking I could take Maddie and Veronica to that new outlet mall. You mentioned you wanted to get your hair done this weekend." I turned to face him, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "I don't recall mentioning that." He shifted uncomfortably. "Didn't you? I thought you said something about roots." His eyes flickered to my hairline, and I resisted the urge to touch it self-consciously. "I had my hair done 2 weeks ago, Richard." I looked directly at him, challenging him to continue the lie. Maddie glanced between us, sensing the tension. "We can all go together," she suggested. "Make a day of it." "Perfect," I said, still holding Richard's gaze. "I'll go get ready." Upstairs, I moved robotically through my routine. Shower, makeup, hair. I could hear the shower running in the guest bathroom, the sound of Veronica's voice as she sang something I couldn't quite make out. In our bedroom, I opened my jewelry box and took out the diamond pendant. I put it on, letting it hang visibly above the neckline of my sweater. When I came downstairs, they were all waiting by the front door. Richard's eyes immediately went to the necklace, then quickly away. The drive to the mall was filled with Maddie's chatter about school and her friends, with occasional comments from Veronica. I watched in the rearview mirror as she texted continuously, a small smile playing at her lips. At the mall, Maddie wanted to check out a specific store first. "They have the best cocktail dresses," she explained as we walked through the crowded corridors. Richard walked slightly ahead with Veronica, pointing out stores and telling her about the area. I noticed how she laughed at everything he said, how she touched his arm when she spoke to him. In the dress shop, Maddie disappeared into a fitting room with an armful of options. Richard checked his watch. "I have a few errands to run while we're here," he said. "I'll be back in a bit." "I'll come with you," Veronica offered quickly. "I need to pick up a few things too." Before I could object, they were gone, leaving me sitting outside the fitting rooms, my reflection fractured across multiple mirrors. Maddie emerged in a beautiful navy dress. "What do you think, Mom?" "You look beautiful," I said truthfully. "That color is perfect on you." She twirled, admiring herself. "Where did Dad and Ronnie go?" "Errands," I said, the word tasting bitter. They'll be back soon. We continued with the dress shopping, eventually finding the perfect one, a burgundy wrap dress that hugged Maddie's figure elegantly. After paying, we waited on a bench outside the store. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. Maybe we should call them, Maddie suggested, looking concerned. I nodded, pulling out my phone. Richard's went straight to voicemail. I texted him, "Where are you?" "He's probably in a store with bad reception," Maddie reasoned. Another 30 minutes passed. I called again. Nothing. "Let's get some lunch," I suggested, forcing a smile. "They'll find us." At the restaurant, I picked at my salad while Maddie ate her pasta, occasionally checking her phone. "Ronnie isn't answering either," she said, frowning. "That's weird." It wasn't weird. It was exactly what I had feared. Finally, as we were finishing our meal, I saw them approaching across the food court. Richard was carrying several shopping bags, and Veronica walked close beside him, looking flushed and happy. They were laughing about something, completely wrapped up in each other. "Where have you been?" Maddie demanded when they reached our table. "We've been calling you." Richard had the grace to look embarrassed. "Sorry, Pumpkin. My phone died and we lost track of time. We found this amazing little jewelry store tucked away in a corner," Veronica added enthusiastically. Richard was helping me pick out a birthday gift for my mom. I stared at the shopping bags in Richard's hands, recognizing the logo of an upscale lingerie store among them. "What's in the bags?" I asked quietly. Richard's face flushed. "Just some things I needed. Socks, mostly." He quickly set the bags down under the table. "Can I see your new dress, Maddie?" Veronica asked, clearly trying to change the subject. As Maddie pulled out the dress to show them, I caught Richard looking at Veronica's profile with naked adoration. The same look he used to give me when we were young, the look that had gradually disappeared over the years, replaced by distracted glances and obligatory pecks on the cheek. "I think we should head home," I said abruptly, standing up. "I'm getting a headache." In the car, Maddie and Veronica sat in the back seat, looking at photos on their phones. I stared straight ahead as Richard drove, the shopping bags rustling in the trunk with every turn. The diamond pendant felt like it was burning a hole in my chest. When we got home, Richard carried the bags upstairs quickly. I followed him, catching him as he tried to hide them in his closet. "Lingerie, Richard?" I said, my voice deadly quiet. "Is that what you needed? Socks?" He straightened, his back to me. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, because it looks exactly like what I think. He turned to face me, his expression a mix of guilt and defiance. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache despite everything. "Ellen, we've been married for 26 years. Sometimes people need something different." "Different," I repeated, the word hollow. "And that something different is my daughter's 20-year-old roommate?" "Keep your voice down," he hissed, glancing toward the door. "It's complicated. It seems pretty simple to me." I fingered the necklace at my throat. "This was for her, wasn't it?" "You bought it for her." The flash of panic in his eyes confirmed it before he could deny it. "You gave me a necklace you bought for your mistress," I said, the words falling like stones between us. "On my birthday." I was 22 when I first met Richard Sullivan. I remember the exact moment. A backyard barbecue at my friend Teresa's house in Somerville. It was one of those perfect June evenings when the air feels like silk against your skin, and the sunset paints everything gold. I was standing by the makeshift bar, pouring myself a glass of cheap white wine, when a deep voice behind me asked if I could pour one for him too. I turned and there he was, tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at his temples, and eyes the color of good whiskey. He wore khaki shorts and a blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned forearms. His smile had a hint of mischief that made me instantly curious. "I'm Richard," he said, extending his hand. "Teresa's boyfriend's college roommate." "Ellen," I replied, shaking his hand and noticing how warm it felt against mine. "Teresa's dental hygiene school friend." We talked for hours that night, sitting on Teresa's porch steps long after most of the other guests had left. He told me about his dreams of starting his own financial advisory firm, his love for sailing, his close-knit family in Rhode Island. I told him about growing up in Framingham, my new job at a dental practice in Cambridge, my small apartment that I was slowly furnishing with flea market finds. He asked for my number before leaving, writing it carefully in a small notebook he pulled from his pocket rather than entering it into his phone. I'm old-fashioned that way," he explained with a smile. "Some things deserve to be written down." He called the very next day. 3 days later, we had our first date. Dinner at a little Italian place in the North End, followed by a walk along the harbor. When he kissed me goodnight at my door, I felt like I was floating. By our 3rd date, I knew I was falling in love. By our 6th-month anniversary, we were discussing marriage. He proposed a year after we met, on the beach at sunset, kneeling in the sand with a small diamond ring that I thought was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "I don't have much yet," he'd said, looking worried as I examined the ring. "But I promise, Ellen, someday I'll give you everything you deserve." I shook my head, tears in my eyes. "This is perfect. You're perfect. I don't need anything else." We were married 4 months later in my parents' backyard. It wasn't fancy. My dress was off the rack, the cake was from a local bakery, the flowers were arranged by my aunt, but it was magical. Richard looked at me that day like I was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Our first apartment was a 1-bedroom walk-up, with unreliable heat and a bathtub with claw feet. We furnished it with hand-me-downs and yard sale finds, and I painted the kitchen cabinets myself to brighten them up. Every night, Richard would come home from his entry-level position at a financial firm and find me waiting with dinner ready, eager to hear about his day. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," he'd say, pulling me into his lap after we'd cleared the dishes. When I got pregnant with Maddie, we were overjoyed, but terrified. We were just barely making ends meet. How would we afford a baby? I started clipping coupons obsessively, learning to sew so I could make baby clothes, haunting consignment shops for gently used equipment. Richard worked longer hours, taking on extra clients, coming home exhausted but determined. "My girls are going to have everything they need," he'd say, placing his hand on my growing belly. Madeline Rose Sullivan was born on a snowy February morning after 18 hours of labor. Richard held my hand through every contraction, wiping my forehead, encouraging me, looking terrified and awestruck all at once. When the doctor placed our daughter in my arms, Richard burst into tears. "She's perfect," he whispered, touching her tiny fingers with reverent gentleness, just like her mother. Those early years were a blur of exhaustion and joy. Richard's business slowly grew while I juggled motherhood and my part-time schedule at the dental office. We moved to a slightly larger apartment, then to our first small house in a modest neighborhood. We took turns getting up with Maddie in the night, tag-team doctor's appointments and playgroups. When Maddie was 4, Richard landed his first major client, a retiring executive with a substantial portfolio. Suddenly, our financial situation improved dramatically. We could afford the beautiful Colonial in Westlake, with its good schools and tree-lined streets. I remember the day we signed the mortgage papers, the way Richard squeezed my hand under the table. "We did it," he whispered. "Everything we dreamed of." I nodded, thinking of how far we'd come from that 1-bedroom apartment with the temperamental heating. That night, after Maddie was asleep in her new bedroom with the bay window and the wallpaper covered in tiny roses, Richard opened a bottle of champagne. "To us," he said, clinking his glass against mine. "To the life we've built together." "To us," I echoed, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. I threw myself into making our house a home. I learned gardening, planted flower beds and vegetable patches. I taught myself to refinish furniture, reupholster chairs, hang wallpaper. I hosted dinner parties for Richard's clients, organized neighborhood block parties, volunteered at Maddie's school. As Richard's business continued to flourish, he was home less and less. There were client dinners, conferences, networking events. I understood. This was what we had worked for, what we had sacrificed for. "Just a few more years of building the business," he'd say, when I mentioned how much Maddie missed him at her school events. "Then I can step back a bit." But he never did step back. Instead, the distance between us grew incrementally. So slowly, I hardly noticed it happening. The passionate kisses turned into quick pecks. The long conversations became brief exchanges about schedules and bills. The looks of adoration faded into distracted glances. I told myself it was normal. All marriages evolve. All couples settle into comfortable routines after decades together. The important thing was that we had built a good life, raised a wonderful daughter, created a beautiful home. When Maddie left for college 2 years ago, the house felt suddenly, achingly empty. I threw myself into new projects, redecorating the guest room, taking a pottery class, volunteering more hours at the community food pantry. Richard seemed relieved by my busyness, no longer having to make excuses for his late nights or weekend work emergencies. I remember the first time Maddie brought Veronica home for a weekend visit last year. I noticed immediately how Richard's eyes lingered on her, how he seemed more animated at dinner than he had been in months. I dismissed it as fatherly interest in our daughter's friend. After all, Veronica was so young, barely 20, with her whole life ahead of her. How naive I had been. How blind. Now, standing in our bedroom with the evidence of his betrayal in shopping bags at my feet, I wondered when exactly I had lost him. When had I stopped being enough? Was it when the first gray hairs appeared at my temples? When the subtle creases formed around my eyes? When my body softened with age and motherhood? Or had it been happening all along, this slow drifting away from each other? Had I been so busy maintaining our perfect life that I'd failed to notice he was no longer living it with me? I fingered the diamond pendant, remembering how it had caught the light in the restaurant, a gift meant for a younger woman, accidentally given to me. The irony was almost too much to bear. Elle, Richard said softly, using the nickname from our early days. It's not what you think, but it was exactly what I thought. And somewhere in my heart, I had known it for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to see it. The next morning, I woke to the sound of hushed voices in the hallway. I lay still, straining to hear. We can't keep doing this, Veronica was saying, her voice barely above a whisper. She knows. She suspects, Richard replied. That's different. We just need to be careful until you and Maddie go back to school tomorrow. And then what? There was a pause. Then we figure something out. I closed my eyes, feeling sick. Figure something out. Like how to leave his wife of 26 years for a girl nearly 3 decades his junior. I heard the soft sound of a kiss, then footsteps moving away from each other. I waited until the house was quiet again before getting up. Downstairs, I went through the motions of making coffee, setting out mugs and cream as if this were any normal Sunday, as if my world hadn't shattered around me. Maddie came down first, her hair wet from the shower. "Morning, Mom," she said, giving me a quick hug. "Dad said he's taking us all out for brunch before Ronnie and I have to head back to Boston." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked, looking at me closely. "You've been quiet all weekend." "Just a bit tired," I managed. "Nothing to worry about." She accepted this with a nod, pouring herself coffee. "By the way, have you seen my blue sweater? The cashmere one Grandma gave me for Christmas. I thought I packed it, but I can't find it anywhere." "Check the guest room," I said. "You might have left it there last time you visited." She headed upstairs as Richard entered the kitchen, freshly showered and dressed in the blue button-down I'd given him for his birthday, the one that matched his eyes. He'd always worn it when he wanted to charm me. "Good morning," he said cautiously. I nodded, sipping my coffee. "About yesterday," he began. "I think we should talk." "Not now," I cut him off. "Not with Maddie and her friend here." He had the decency to look ashamed. "Later then." "Later," I agreed, though I had no intention of having any conversation he might be planning. Maddie came back downstairs, looking troubled. "Mom, my sweater isn't in the guest room, but I found these." She held up a pair of earrings, silver hoops with small turquoise stones that I recognized immediately as mine. They were on the nightstand in Ronnie's room. "Did you lend them to her?" I felt the blood drain from my face. Those earrings had been in my jewelry box for months. I never wore them anymore because one of the clasps was loose. "I must have," I said mechanically. "I don't remember." Richard wouldn't meet my eyes. Veronica appeared in the doorway then, wearing a sundress I hadn't seen before. "Good morning, everyone," she said brightly. Too brightly. "Ready for brunch?" I watched as she crossed the kitchen to the coffee pot, moving with the easy confidence of someone who felt at home. She knew where everything was. The mugs, the cream, the sugar, as if she'd been here many times before. How many weekends had she visited while I was working or visiting my sister? How many times had they been together in my home, in my bed? The diamond pendant felt suddenly heavy around my neck. I resisted the urge to tear it off. We drove to the restaurant in tense silence, broken only by Maddie's occasional comments about the beautiful fall day. At the restaurant, an upscale place downtown that Richard had chosen, we were seated at a table by the window. I watched as families walked by outside, mothers holding children's hands, fathers carrying small daughters on their shoulders. Normal families. Unbroken families. The waiter came to take our orders. I barely heard what everyone else requested. When my turn came, I ordered a mimosa and nothing else. "Aren't you hungry, Ellen?" Richard asked, his voice tinged with concern that sounded almost genuine. "Not particularly." "Mom, you should eat something," Maddie insisted. "I'll just have a bite of yours," I said with a smile I didn't feel. "Don't worry about me." The conversation flowed around me. Maddie talking about her classes, Richard asking questions, Veronica adding comments, all of them pretending this was normal. A nice family brunch, a pleasant way to end the weekend. I sipped my mimosa and watched them, feeling like I was observing strangers through a window. These people who talked and laughed while my heart was breaking. These traitors who smiled at me with secret glances between them. When the food arrived, I picked at a piece of toast from Maddie's plate, not tasting anything. Richard kept looking at me nervously, clearly worried about what I might say or do. I smiled blandly back at him, giving nothing away. Halfway through the meal, Veronica excused herself to go to the restroom. A moment later, Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly put it away. "Excuse me," he said, standing. "I need to make a quick call." I watched him walk in the direction of the restrooms, not toward the front door where one would logically go to make a call. "Dad's been acting weird all weekend," Maddie commented, taking a bite of her eggs Benedict. "Do you think everything's okay with work?" I took a long sip of my drink. "I'm sure he's fine, sweetheart." 10 minutes passed before Richard returned, looking slightly flushed. Veronica came back a few minutes after him, her lipstick freshly applied. I felt something inside me snap, a final thread of restraint, of dignity, of the practical, reliable Ellen who never made scenes. I stood up abruptly. "Mom?" Maddie looked startled. "I don't feel well," I said. "I think I need some air." Before anyone could respond, I grabbed my purse and walked quickly toward the exit. Outside, I gulped the cool autumn air, trying to steady myself. My hands were shaking. A moment later, Richard appeared beside me. "Ellen, what's wrong? Are you sick?" I turned to face him, no longer caring who might see or hear us. "How long has it been going on?" He flinched. "This isn't the place." "How long?" I demanded, my voice rising. "How many times have you brought her to our house? Our bed?" "Ellen, please," he begged, glancing back at the restaurant. "Maddie will hear you." "Maddie," I laughed bitterly. "You're worried about Maddie finding out you're sleeping with her roommate? Her friend? A girl her age?" His face crumpled. "It's not like that." "What is it like then?" I stepped closer to him. "Explain it to me, Richard. Help me understand how my husband of 26 years could betray me like this." He ran a hand through his hair, looking cornered. "It just happened. I didn't plan it. It just happened," I repeated. "Like the earrings in the guest room just happened to get there? Like this necklace?" I touched the pendant at my throat. "Just happened to end up around my neck instead of hers?" Before he could answer, the restaurant door opened, and Maddie and Veronica emerged, looking confused and concerned. "What's going on?" Maddie asked, looking between us. "Mom, are you okay?" I stared at my daughter, my beautiful, innocent daughter, and at the young woman beside her who had been sleeping with her father, the woman wearing new lingerie my husband had bought her, the woman for whom the necklace around my neck had been intended. In that moment, with the autumn sun highlighting the red in Veronica's chestnut hair, and the resemblance between Maddie and me so striking it hurt, I made a decision. I wouldn't shatter my daughter's world. Not yet. Not like this. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a bit dizzy. Low blood sugar, probably." "We should get you home," Maddie said, taking my arm gently. I nodded, allowing myself to be led to the car, feeling Richard's relieved gaze on my back. He thought he had escaped. He thought I would keep his secret to protect Maddie. He had no idea what was coming. That night, after Maddie and Veronica had left for Boston, I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at my reflection in the vanity mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed like a stranger, her eyes harder, her mouth set in a firm line. This wasn't the face of practical Ellen, reliable Ellen. This was someone new emerging from the wreckage. Richard was downstairs in his home office, pretending to work. He'd been avoiding me since we returned from the restaurant, clearly hoping I would cool down, that we could have a rational discussion later. That was his way, always thinking he could talk his way out of anything, charm his way through any situation. I took off the necklace and held it in my palm, watching the diamond catch the light from my bedside lamp. Such a beautiful thing, meant for such an ugly purpose. I placed it carefully back in its velvet box and set it on the vanity. Then I did something I had never done before. I went through Richard's things methodically, deliberately, without a trace of guilt. His dresser drawers, his nightstand, his closet. I found nothing incriminating at first. Richard was too careful for that. But then I checked the inside pocket of his winter coat, still hanging in the back of the closet from last season. There, I found a small key I didn't recognize. Not a house key, not a car key, something else. I stared at it, turning it over in my palm. Richard had always handled our finances, insisting I didn't need to worry about such things. "You take care of the house, I'll take care of the money," he'd say. I had trusted him completely. Now, that trust seemed laughable. I went to his office, the key clutched in my hand. He looked up from his computer, surprised to see me standing in the doorway. "Ellen," he said cautiously, "I was just coming up to talk to you." "What does this open?" I asked, holding up the key. His face paled. "Where did you find that?" "In your coat pocket." "What does it open, Richard?" He stood slowly, as if facing a dangerous animal. "It's nothing important. Just a small safe deposit box where I keep some documents." "What documents?" He shrugged, trying to appear casual. "Insurance policies, some investment certificates, boring stuff." "Which bank?" "Ellen, this isn't necessary. I'll show you sometime if you're really interested." "Which bank?" I repeated, my voice hardening. "Eastern Savings, the branch downtown." He sighed. "Look, I know you're upset about what you think is happening with Veronica, but I swear to you, it's not what you think. She's just a young woman I've been mentoring. I've been helping her with financial planning, career advice, that's all." I almost laughed at the absurdity of his lie. "Mentoring, is that what you call it?" "Yes," he insisted, gaining confidence. "I know how it must have looked, especially with the shopping and, well, I admit I enjoy her company. She reminds me of you when you were younger, smart, ambitious, but there's nothing inappropriate happening. And the earrings in her room? The necklace you bought for her but gave to me by mistake?" He flushed. "The earrings, I don't know how they got there. Maybe Maddie borrowed them. And the necklace was always for you, Ellen. Always." I stared at him. This man I had loved for half my life, now standing before me telling transparent lies with such conviction. Had he always been this way? Had I just never noticed? "I'm going to bed," I said finally, turning away. "We'll talk tomorrow." "Ellen, wait." He reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "I love you. You know that, right? We've built a life together. 26 years. That means something." I looked at him, really looked at him, seeing the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the slight softening of his once chiseled jawline. He was still handsome, still the man whose smile had once made my heart race. But now all I felt was a cold, hard clarity. "Yes," I said quietly. It meant something. I slept in the guest room that night, the key from Richard's coat tucked safely in my pillowcase. As I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, something shifted inside me. The shock and pain were still there, but beneath them a new feeling was taking root. Determination. Purpose. For 26 years, I had been the supportive wife, the nurturing mother, the woman who made everything run smoothly so others could shine. I had subjugated my own dreams and desires to build the life Richard wanted, believing it was what I wanted too. But what had it gotten me? A husband who lied to my face, who betrayed me with a woman younger than our daughter, who thought I was too naive or too desperate to leave him. Morning came, and with it a plan. I dressed carefully in a smart blouse and trousers, applied my makeup with precision, and styled my hair. I looked like I was going to work, which in a way I was. Richard was already gone when I came downstairs. An early client meeting, according to the note he'd left on the kitchen counter. Perfect. I drove downtown to Eastern Savings and asked to access Richard's safe deposit box. The key worked, and a bank employee led me to a private room with the box. Inside, I found exactly what I had expected and feared. Evidence of a life I knew nothing about. Financial statements for accounts I'd never heard of. Property deeds for a lakeside cabin in Vermont. And most damning of all, a small velvet jewelry box containing a pair of diamond earrings that matched the necklace he had given me. Clearly the complete set, with the necklace having been separated from my gift. There were also documents for a recently formed LLC, with both Richard's name and Veronica's listed as members. They had started a business together. They were planning a future. I took photos of everything with my phone, careful not to disturb the arrangement of items. Then I returned the box and left, a strange calm settling over me. My next stop was my own bank, where I opened a new account in my name only. I transferred half the money from our joint checking account, money I had earned, money that was rightfully mine. Then I drove to my friend Sarah's law office. Sarah had been divorced 5 years earlier and had emerged stronger, more confident. She had helped several other women in our social circle through their divorces since then. Now she would help me. "Ellen," she said, surprised to see me in her office doorway. "Is everything okay? You never returned my text about your birthday dinner." "No," I said simply. "Everything is not okay, and I need your help." I told her everything. The necklace, Veronica, the safe deposit box, the secret accounts. She listened without interruption, her expression growing increasingly troubled. "That bastard," she said when I finished. "Ellen, I'm so sorry." I nodded, surprising myself with my own composure. "I need to know my options. I need to protect myself." Sarah straightened in her chair, shifting from friend to lawyer. "First, we document everything. The accounts, the property, the evidence of infidelity. Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, but infidelity can still impact property division and alimony. I don't want to hurt Maddie," I said. "She adores her father. We'll be as discreet as possible," Sarah assured me. "But Ellen, you deserve your fair share of what you've helped build. And from what you've told me, Richard may be hiding assets. We need to act quickly before he can move things around." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. 26 years of marriage, about to end. The life I had built, about to change forever. But as I sat in Sarah's office, looking out at the autumn leaves swirling in the October wind, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The burden of pretending, of not knowing, of doubting myself. It was lifting. In its place was a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. "Let's do this," I said, turning back to Sarah. "I'm ready." The manila folder sat on Sarah's desk between us, innocuous in appearance but devastating in content. 3 weeks of intensive investigation had yielded results that even Sarah, seasoned divorce attorney that she was, found shocking. "He's been planning this for years," she said, tapping the folder with a perfectly manicured nail. "The accounts in the Cayman Islands, the property transfers to his LLC with Veronica, the systematic movement of assets. This isn't a midlife crisis, Ellen. This is calculated." I nodded, strangely calm. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a cold clarity that was almost liberating. "Show me everything." Sarah opened the folder and began laying out documents one by one, like dealing cards in a particularly grim game of solitaire. Bank statements showing regular transfers to offshore accounts. Tax documents with suspicious deductions. Property records for not just the Vermont cabin I'd discovered, but also a beachfront condo in Florida, both held by shell companies that eventually traced back to Richard. "This one's interesting," Sarah said, sliding a document toward me. "He's been paying Veronica's tuition directly to Boston College for the past 1.5 years, before she even met Maddie." I stared at the paper, my fingers tracing the college letterhead. "They've known each other that long?" Sarah nodded grimly. "It looks like they met when he gave a guest lecture in her business class. She was a sophomore then." I closed my eyes briefly, the timeline reconstructing itself in my mind. 1.5 years ago, when Richard had started taking more business trips, when he'd begun showering before bed rather than in the morning, when the emotional distance between us had widened from a crack to a chasm. "There's more," Sarah continued reluctantly. "The private investigator found evidence that Richard has been seeing other women as well, not just Veronica. That revelation should have hurt, should have cut deeper, but instead I felt a strange detachment. Of course, there had been others. The pattern was clear now. "What about the accounts?" I asked, redirecting the conversation to the practical matters at hand. "How much has he hidden?" Sarah hesitated, then slid another document toward me, a summary prepared by the forensic accountant she'd hired. "Conservatively, at least $2.3 million. Possibly more we haven't uncovered yet." The number struck me like a physical blow. $2.3 million. Money that should have been part of our marital assets. Money I had helped him earn through years of support, sacrifice, and partnership. He's been siphoning funds from his business for years, Sarah explained, setting up fake consulting contracts, inflating expenses, diverting client payments. It's sophisticated enough that it might also constitute tax fraud. Does Veronica know about all this? I asked, thinking of my daughter's roommate, the young woman who had sat at my dinner table smiling while sleeping with my husband. The evidence suggests she's been actively involved in some of the more recent financial maneuvers. The LLC they formed together has received substantial transfers. She's listed as an authorized user on 2 of his hidden credit cards. And Sarah hesitated again. And what? And they've been looking at real estate together. Expensive real estate. In California. I absorbed this information, fitting it into the emerging picture of betrayal. Not just an affair, then. They were planning a life together, far away from Boston. From me, from the mess they would leave behind. What about Maddie? I asked, the thought of my daughter suddenly overwhelming. Does she know anything about this? Sarah shook her head. The investigator found no evidence that Maddie is aware of the relationship. Though it's hard to believe she hasn't noticed anything, given that she lives with Veronica. I thought of my trusting, studious daughter, so focused on her psychology major, so unworldly in many ways despite her intelligence. Maddie sees the best in everyone, I said quietly, just like I always did. Sarah reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. Ellen, with what we've uncovered, we're in an extremely strong position. Massachusetts law entitles you to an equitable distribution of marital assets, including those he's tried to hide. Plus, given the length of your marriage and his infidelity, you should receive substantial alimony. I nodded, looking down at the scatter of documents, the paper trail of my husband's betrayal. What's our next step? We file for divorce and request an emergency hearing for temporary support and asset freeze. Richard won't know what hit him. Sarah's voice took on a steely edge. Men like him think they're so clever that they've thought of everything. They never expect their wives to fight back. But I wasn't sure I wanted to fight, at least not in the way Sarah was suggesting. The thought of a long, acrimonious divorce battle, with mudslinging and courtroom confrontations, made me weary before it had even begun. Is there another way? I asked. Something less public? Sarah studied me for a moment. You're thinking of Maddie. Yes. I twisted my wedding ring, which I still wore, more out of habit than sentiment. I don't want to destroy her relationship with her father, despite everything he's done. We could approach him with what we know, try to negotiate a settlement out of court, Sarah suggested. But Ellen, he's hidden assets, lied to you for years. He's not likely to suddenly become fair and reasonable. Let me think about it, I said, gathering my purse. I need some time. Outside, I sat in my car in the parking garage, not yet starting the engine. The folder of evidence was on the passenger seat beside me, a ticking bomb of information. I thought of Richard at home, still believing I was in the dark, still thinking he could manage me with his lies and charm. He'd been distant since the confrontation about Veronica, retreating to his home office in the evenings, taking more business dinners than usual. We barely spoke beyond the necessities of sharing a house. He was waiting, I realized, for my anger to subside, for practical Ellen to resurface and smooth things over as she always had. But practical Ellen was gone, replaced by this new version of myself who saw everything with painful clarity. I started the car and drove, not toward home, but to the small coffee shop downtown where I sometimes met my sister for lunch. I ordered a latte and sat at a corner table, opening my laptop. I had decided days ago to return to school, to finish the bachelor's degree I had abandoned when Maddie was born. Now, looking at the university website, I began filling out the application for the spring semester. The act felt both terrifying and exhilarating. A declaration of independence, a commitment to a future I was only beginning to imagine. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I almost laughed at the transparency of the lie. He wasn't even trying hard anymore. Instead of responding, I opened my banking app and checked the account I had opened in my name. The transfers I had been making, small enough not to immediately alert Richard but consistent, had accumulated to a respectable sum. Not enough to start a new life, perhaps, but enough to give me options. I thought of the diamond pendant, still in its velvet box on my vanity at home, a gift meant for another woman that had found its way to me through mistake or guilt, or some combination of both. Richard probably assumed I had thrown it away in anger, but I had kept it. Not out of sentiment, but because I recognized its value. It could be sold, converted into something useful. Like so many things in my life, it could be transformed. As I sat there, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Maddie. "Hey Mom, just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a few days. Everything okay at home?" My heart contracted. Soon I would have to tell her the truth, or some version of it. Soon, the careful life I had constructed would collapse entirely, and I would need to help her through the rubble. But not yet. "Everything's fine, sweetheart," I texted back. "Just busy with some new projects. How are midterms going?" "Stressful but good," she replied. "Ronnie's been helping me study for psych." I stared at the name. Ronnie, my daughter's friend, my husband's mistress, the woman who had sat in my home, eating food I had prepared, all while planning to take the life I had built. "That's good," I typed, my fingers steady despite the anger flaring in my chest. "Give her my best." I put the phone down and looked out the window at the street beyond, watching people hurry past in the fading autumn light. Normal people with normal lives, or so it seemed from the outside. How many of them were carrying secrets like mine? How many wore masks of contentment, while their worlds crumbled silently around them? The barista called out another customer's name, and I watched as a woman about my age collected her drink, thanking him with a warm smile. She wore no wedding ring, but there was a quiet confidence in her posture, a self-possession I envied. I wondered about her story, whether she had always been single, or had found her way to independence through loss or choice. I turned back to my laptop, to the university application waiting for my attention. I filled in the remaining fields methodically, pausing only when I reached the section asking for my name. For a moment, I considered writing Ellen Matthews, my maiden name, the name I had abandoned when I became Mrs. Richard Sullivan. Instead, I typed Ellen Sullivan, reclaiming those 9 letters as my own, separate from the man who had given them to me. If I changed my name in the future, it would be my decision, not a reaction to Richard's betrayal. As I submitted the application, a sense of power surged through me, not the angry power of revenge, but the steady strength of self-determination. For the first time in decades, I was making choices solely for myself. My phone buzzed once more with a final text from Maddie. "Love you, Mom. Can't wait to come home for Thanksgiving break." "Love you too," I replied. "More than you know." I drove home in the gathering darkness, the folder of evidence beside me, my mind already mapping out the confrontation to come. Not tonight. Richard wouldn't be home tonight, despite his claim of working late. He would be with her, in some hotel, or perhaps at the Vermont cabin I had only just discovered existed. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow I would begin dismantling the life we had built together, brick by careful brick, and from the ruins, I would build something new. I spent the evening rearranging my closet, methodically sorting through 26 years of accumulated clothing. The process was oddly cathartic, separating what I truly loved from what I had kept out of habit or obligation. 3 large bags for donation grew by the door. A 4th bag, filled with items too worn to salvage, waited for the trash. In the back corner of the closet, behind winter boots I rarely wore, I found a small leather-bound journal I had forgotten existed. My diary from the early years of our marriage. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it, my fingers tracing the handwriting of my younger self. Richard surprised me with tulips today, just because. He says they reminded him of the ones we saw in the public garden on our second date. How did I get so lucky? I closed the book, unable to read more. That Ellen, trusting, joyful Ellen, felt like a stranger to me now. The sound of Richard's car in the driveway pulled me from my thoughts. It was nearly midnight, earlier than I had expected him to return from his tryst. I replaced the journal in its hiding spot and quickly finished sorting the remaining clothes. I heard him enter downstairs, moving about with the careful quietness of someone trying not to disturb a sleeping household. The refrigerator opening and closing, water running briefly in the kitchen sink, then his footsteps on the stairs. I was sitting at my vanity, removing my makeup, when he appeared in the doorway of our bedroom. He looked surprised to find me still awake. "Oh," he said, loosening his tie. "I thought you'd be asleep by now." "Clearly," I replied, meeting his eyes in the mirror's reflection. He hovered uncertainly in the doorway. "How was your day?" Such a normal question, as if we were still a normal couple sharing the mundane details of our lives. "Illuminating," I said, wiping away the last traces of mascara. "Yours?" Long. Client meeting ran late. The lie came easily to him, practiced and smooth. I turned on my stool to face him directly. Which client? He blinked, momentarily thrown by the direct question. Thompson, the retirement portfolio restructuring. I nodded as if accepting this explanation, watching him relax slightly. I made an appointment with Dr. Miller tomorrow, I said, referring to my gynecologist, for an STD test. The color drained from his face. What? Why would you do that? Because my husband has been sleeping with a 20-year-old, and apparently others before her. I kept my voice calm, clinical. It seemed like the prudent thing to do. Ellen, I've told you, there's nothing going on with Veronica. He stepped into the room, his hands spread in a gesture of innocence. This is ridiculous. Is it? I stood up and moved to my dresser, opening the top drawer. I found these in her room when I was gathering Maddie's things. I held up a pair of lace underwear that weren't mine, that I had discovered tucked beneath the guest room mattress. They're not Maddie's. Richard stared at the underwear, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I don't know where those came from. And this? I picked up my phone and pulled up a photo I had taken that afternoon. A receipt from Richard's credit card statement for a hotel room in downtown Boston, dated 2 weeks earlier when he had claimed to be at a conference in New York. Were you telecommuting from the Four Seasons that day? He sank onto the edge of the bed, his shoulders slumping. The facade of indignant innocence crumbled, replaced by the calculating look I had come to recognize. Richard assessing the situation, planning his response, looking for an angle. It's not what you think, Ellen. Then what is it? I leaned against the dresser, arms crossed. Explain it to me. Help me understand. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing deeply. It's complicated. I have time. He looked up at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw genuine regret in his eyes. I never meant to hurt you. And yet, here we are. It's just, he hesitated. You and I, we've become more like roommates than husband and wife. When was the last time we really talked? Really connected? You're always busy with your projects, your volunteering, your friends. I almost laughed at the absurdity. So this is my fault? I've been too independent, too occupied with my own life, so naturally you had to sleep with my daughter's roommate? That's not what I'm saying. He stood up, pacing the room. Look, Veronica and I, it just happened. She's bright. She's interested in finance. She asked for my mentorship. One thing led to another. One thing led to another. I repeated flatly. For a year and a half? He stopped pacing, staring at me. How did you know how long it's been? I know a lot of things now, Richard. I picked up my phone again. I know about the Vermont cabin and the Florida condo. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the LLC you formed with Veronica. I know about the real estate you've been looking at in California. With each revelation, his face grew paler, his eyes wider. This was not the conversation he had prepared for. He had expected tears, recriminations, perhaps even bargaining, not this calm recitation of facts. You've been investigating me? His voice hardened, indignation replacing shock. I've been discovering who my husband really is. I set the phone down carefully. It's been quite an education. He stood straighter, shifting into the defensive posture I recognized from watching him handle difficult clients. Whatever you think you know, it's not the full picture. Those accounts, those properties, their investments, tax strategies, it's all perfectly legal. Is it? I raised an eyebrow. The IRS might have a different opinion, as might the clients you've been overcharging and diverting funds from. His face flushed with anger. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts. You've hidden marital assets, Richard. You've committed financial infidelity along with the regular kind. I kept my voice steady, refusing to match his rising temper. I've consulted an attorney. That landed like a physical blow. He took a step back, reassessing me as if seeing a stranger. You're filing for divorce? I'm considering my options. He was silent for a long moment, his mind visibly racing behind his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice had softened, taken on the persuasive tone he used so effectively with clients. Ellen, let's not make hasty decisions. Yes, I've made mistakes, serious mistakes, but we have 26 years together, a daughter, a home. We can work through this. Can we? I'll end things with Veronica. He moved toward me, stopping just short of reaching for my hand. I'll go to counseling. Whatever you want. I studied his face, the face I had loved for half my lifetime, the face I thought I knew better than my own. Now I saw the calculation behind his contrition, the strategic retreat of a man buying time. "What I want," I said carefully, "is honesty, complete financial disclosure, access to all accounts, your name off the deed to this house." He blinked, surprised by the specificity of my demands. "The house? Ellen, be reasonable. We'd have to refinance. There'd be tax implications. Those are my terms for even considering reconciliation." I moved toward the door. "I'll be sleeping in the guest room until further notice." "Wait." He reached for me, his fingers brushing my arm. "What about Maddie? Are you going to tell her about this situation?" There it was, his true concern. Not our marriage, not my feelings, but his relationship with our daughter, the fear of losing her respect, her adoration. "That depends on you," I said, pausing in the doorway. "If you meet my terms, if you demonstrate genuine remorse and commitment to change, perhaps we can find a way to protect her from the ugliest details." Relief flooded his face. "Thank you. I don't want to hurt her. Neither do I. That's the difference between us, Richard." I looked at him one last time before leaving the room. I never wanted to hurt anyone. In the guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling slightly now that the confrontation was over. I had maintained my composure, presented my case clearly, set my terms. It had gone exactly as I had planned. So why did I feel so hollow? I pulled out my phone and sent a brief text to Sarah. Confronted R. "He knows I know everything. Presented terms. We'll call tomorrow." Her response came quickly. "Well done. Stay strong. We'll talk in the morning." I changed into my nightgown and slipped between the cool sheets of the guest bed, staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, I could hear Richard moving about our bedroom, drawers opening and closing, the shower running briefly. The familiar sounds of his nighttime routine continued without me. For 26 years, I had fallen asleep to those sounds, finding comfort in the predictable rhythm of our shared life. Now, each noise felt like the tick of a clock counting down to the end of something I had once believed was permanent. I closed my eyes, but sleep remained elusive. Instead, I found myself mentally inventorying the contents of the room around me, separating what was truly mine from what was merely in my possession. The house, the furniture, the memories. What would I take when I left? What would I leave behind? Because despite my ultimatum to Richard, despite the possibility of reconciliation I had dangled before him, I knew with sudden clarity that I would not stay. This house, this marriage, this life, they were already in my past. I just hadn't packed my bags yet. 3 days later, I sat across from Richard in our attorney's offices, watching him sign the separation agreement with a steady hand. Sarah sat beside me, her presence a reassuring anchor in the sterile conference room. Richard's lawyer, a silver-haired man with an expensive suit and perpetually furrowed brow, observed the proceedings with barely concealed displeasure. "This is extremely generous of my client," he remarked, as Richard slid the signed documents back across the table, "particularly given the circumstances." Sarah smiled thinly. "Let's be clear, Mr. Peterson. Your client is agreeing to these terms because the alternative would be significantly worse for him. This isn't generosity, it's damage control." Richard shot her an irritated glance, but remained silent. He had barely spoken throughout the meeting, answering direct questions with minimal responses, his eyes rarely meeting mine. I signed where indicated, my signature firm and decisive next to his more flamboyant scrawl. With those strokes of a pen, our marriage was effectively over. The divorce wouldn't be final for months due to Massachusetts' waiting period, but the practical dissolution of our union was accomplished in this moment. "The transfer of the house deed should be completed by Friday," Sarah said, gathering the documents. "And as agreed, Mr. Sullivan will vacate the premises by the end of the month." Richard nodded stiffly. "I have already found an apartment. I wondered briefly if Veronica would be joining him there, but I didn't ask. Her name had not been mentioned once during our negotiations, though her shadow had hung over every conversation. "Ellen will inform Madeline of the separation this weekend," Sarah continued, consulting her notes. "As agreed, neither party will disparage the other to their daughter or discuss the specific reasons for the divorce." "Fine," Richard said, checking his watch. "Is there anything else? I have a client meeting at 2. "Nothing else for now." Sarah closed her portfolio. "We'll be in touch about the asset transfers as they're completed." We all stood, The meeting concluded with businesslike efficiency. Richard hesitated, glancing at me as if wanting to say something private, but with our attorneys present, he merely nodded and left, his lawyer following behind. When the door closed, I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Is it really over? Just like that? Sarah squeezed my shoulder gently. The paperwork part, yes. The emotional part, that takes longer. I nodded, gathering my purse. I need to prepare for Maddie's visit tomorrow. Are you sure you don't want Richard present when you tell her? It might be easier if you present a united front. I shook my head. No. She's coming home specifically to see me. I told her I had something important to discuss. If Richard were there, I paused, searching for the words. It would feel like another performance, another lie. Sarah didn't argue. Call me after, if you need to talk. I drove home through the familiar streets of Westlake, noticing how the neighborhood had changed over the years. The Petersons' ranch house had been replaced by a larger colonial. The vacant lot at the corner was now a small playground. The old oak tree that had shaded our block had been removed after a storm damaged it beyond saving. Everything changes, I thought. Even the things we believe are permanent. At home, I wandered through the rooms, seeing them with new eyes. This house would be mine alone now. Richard had agreed to transfer the deed to me in exchange for my silence about his financial irregularities. It was a fair trade. The house for his reputation, his professional license, his freedom from potential criminal charges. Upstairs, I paused in the doorway of Maddie's room, preserved much as she had left it when she departed for college 2 years earlier. Cheerleading trophies on the bookshelf, framed photos of high school friends, the stuffed bear she had slept with until she was 12, now propped against her pillows. How would she take the news? Would she blame me for not trying harder to save the marriage? Would she side with Richard, her adored father who had always been the fun parent, the one who said yes when I said no, who brought gifts when I preached responsibility? I sat on the edge of her bed, picking up a framed photo from her nightstand. It showed the three of us at her high school graduation, Maddie in the center in her cap and gown, Richard and me on either side, all of us smiling proudly. A perfect family portrait, a beautiful lie. My phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. Maddie's name flashed on the screen. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, keeping my voice light. "Mom?" she said, her voice tight with emotion. "I need to talk to you." My heart sank. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I know about Dad and Ronnie." The words tumbled out in a rush. "I know everything." For a moment, I couldn't speak, couldn't think. "What do you mean?" I finally managed. "I found texts on Ronnie's phone." Her voice broke. Explicit texts, from Dad, going back months, and pictures. "Mom, there were pictures." I closed my eyes, a wave of nausea washing over me. "Oh, Maddie, I'm so sorry. When were you going to tell me?" Now anger edged her voice. "Did you know? Have you known all along?" "No," I said quickly. "I only discovered it recently. I was going to tell you this weekend in person. That's why I asked you to come home." Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, trying to compose herself. "I confronted Ronnie," she said finally. She denied it at first, but when I showed her the texts, she admitted everything. She said they're in love. She practically spat the last word. She said you and Dad were basically separated anyway, that he was unhappy, that you wouldn't care. "That's not true," I said firmly. "Your father and I had problems, yes, but I never knew about her until recently, and I certainly wasn't indifferent to his betrayal. I'm moving out of our apartment," Maddie continued. "I can't stand to look at her. I can't believe I trusted her, that I called her my friend while she was sleeping with my father behind my back." "Where will you go?" I asked, practical concerns immediately surfacing. "Emma's letting me crash on her couch until I find a new place. I already packed most of my stuff." She paused. "Mom, I'm so sorry. This must be horrible for you." The irony of my daughter apologizing to me made my throat tighten. "Don't worry about me, sweetheart. I'm handling it. Have you kicked him out yet? Please tell me you're not still living with him." "We've separated," I assured her. "We're getting divorced. He'll be moved out by the end of the month." "Good." Her voice hardened. "He doesn't deserve you. He never did." "Maddie," I said carefully, "I know you're angry right now, and you have every right to be. But he's still your father. Whatever he's done to me, to us, that hasn't changed. How can you defend him after what he did? I'm not defending him. I'm thinking of you, of your relationship with him. You don't have to forgive him right away. Maybe not ever. But try not to make permanent decisions in the heat of anger. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't think I can face him right now. You don't have to. Take all the time you need. I still want to come home tomorrow, she said. Is that okay? I need to get away from here. From them. Of course. This is your home too. Always. I hesitated, then added, Your father won't be here. He's staying at his office apartment until he finds a permanent place. Good. She sounded exhausted suddenly. I should go. Emma's helping me move the last of my stuff. Call me when you're on your way tomorrow. Drive safely. I will. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything. After we hung up, I sat motionless on Maddie's bed, the framed graduation photo still in my lap. The perfect family, shattered now beyond repair. I had hoped to control the narrative, to present the divorce to Maddie in a way that protected her from the worst of the ugliness. That option was gone now. She had discovered the betrayal in perhaps the most painful way possible, through explicit evidence of her father's infidelity with her own roommate and friend. My phone buzzed with an incoming text from Richard. Maddie just called me. She knows about Veronica. Did you tell her? I stared at the message, anger rising in my chest. Even now, his first instinct was to blame me. No, I texted back. She found texts and pictures on Veronica's phone. His response came quickly. She won't talk to me. She's furious. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I was sorry our daughter had discovered his betrayal, that I wished she still adored him, still saw him as the perfect father, rather than the deeply flawed man he truly was. Another text arrived. Can you talk to her? Tell her I still love her, that this has nothing to do with her. This time I did respond. She needs time, Richard, and this has everything to do with her. You slept with her friend, her roommate. You brought this into her life, her home. I set the phone down, not waiting for his reply. Let him sit with that truth for a while. Outside, rain had begun to fall, pattering against the windows and obscuring the view of the street. I moved to the window, watching the droplets trace paths down the glass, merging and separating in random patterns. Like lives, I thought. Like relationships. Coming together, moving apart, leaving traces behind. Maddie would arrive tomorrow, angry and hurt and looking to me for answers I wasn't sure I had. What could I tell her about love and betrayal that wouldn't sound like bitter platitudes? How could I help her make sense of her father's actions when I still struggled to understand them myself? As I stood watching the rain, my phone rang again. Richard's name appeared on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Whatever crisis he was facing, whatever damage control he was attempting with our daughter, he would have to manage it himself. I was no longer his backup, his support system, his safety net. That role had ended the moment I discovered the necklace wasn't meant for me. The necklace. It was still in its velvet box on my vanity. I should sell it, I thought. Convert it to something useful, like tuition for the classes I had registered for at the university. But something held me back. Not sentiment, not attachment to Richard, but a sense that the necklace now represented something important. A turning point, a revelation, a catalyst for change. I would keep it, at least for now. A reminder not of what I had lost, but of what I had found. My strength, my clarity, my self-respect. The rain continued to fall as night descended, enveloping the house in a cocoon of gentle sound. For the first time since discovering Richard's betrayal, I felt a sense of peace settling over me. Not happiness, not yet, but a quiet certainty that I would find my way forward, one step at a time. Maddie would arrive tomorrow. We would talk, cry, plan, and then we would begin to heal, together. Spring arrived in Westlake with its usual flourish. Magnolia blossoms opening overnight, daffodils pushing through the soil in my garden beds, birds returning to the maple tree outside my bedroom window. 6 months had passed since that October weekend when my life had unraveled, and nature's renewal felt like both a blessing and a challenge. Could I, too, regenerate after the winter of my marriage? I stood on the front porch, coffee mug in hand, surveying the yard. The for sale sign had been up for 3 weeks now, its presence both a relief and a pang. After much deliberation, I had decided to sell the colonial with its memories both sweet and bitter. The house was too large for just me, too filled with echoes of a family that no longer existed as it once had. Sarah had helped me find a charming townhouse closer to the university, where I was now taking classes 3 days a week. The divorce had been finalized last month, with surprisingly little drama at the end. Richard, perhaps finally understanding the extent of his loss, had been almost docile during the final proceedings. The financial settlement was fair. More than fair, really, given what I could have pushed for had I been inclined toward vengeance. My phone chimed with a text from Maddie. "Just finished my last midterm. Still okay if I come home this weekend to help with packing?" I smiled, typing back, "Of course. Your room is ready. Drive safely. Maddie." My brilliant, resilient daughter, who had somehow weathered the storm of her parents' divorce with a grace that continually amazed me. She had been furious with her father at first, refusing his calls, returning his letters unopened. But gradually, over the winter months, she had begun to thaw. A brief conversation at Christmas, a lunch meeting in February, small steps toward a new kind of relationship. Not the adoring daddy's girl she had been, but not estranged either. With Veronica, there had been no reconciliation. Maddie had transferred to a different apartment with new roommates, cutting her former friend out of her life completely. I sometimes wondered what had happened between Richard and Veronica after the exposure of their affair, but I never asked. That part of his life was no longer my concern. I went back inside to finish getting ready for work. The dental office had welcomed me back full-time after the separation, and the familiar routine of patients and appointments had been a stabilizing force during the upheaval. Today was a short day, only until noon, then an afternoon class on campus. As I gathered my purse and keys, I caught sight of myself in the hall mirror. I looked different somehow, my posture straighter, my eyes clearer, my smile more genuine. Even my clothing had changed, the practical cardigans and sensible slacks giving way to more colorful fitted pieces that expressed something new emerging in me. The diamond pendant sat in my jewelry box upstairs, still unworn since that fateful birthday dinner. I had decided to keep it after all, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a symbol of awakening. Someday, I might even wear it again, when its history had faded enough to be just a story, not a wound. At the dental office, I moved through my morning appointments with practiced efficiency, my mind occasionally drifting to the weekend ahead. Maddie would help me sort through more of the house, deciding what to keep, what to sell, what to donate. We had already tackled the kitchen and living room in previous visits. This time, we would brave the attic with its boxes of holiday decorations and old photo albums. "You seem happy today, Ellen," remarked Dr. Kaplan, as we reviewed a patient's charts between appointments. "The house hunting going well?" "I think I found the perfect place," I told him. "Just waiting for the inspection report." "Wonderful." He hesitated, then added, "And Richard? How's he adjusting to the changes?" It was a measure of how small our community was that everyone knew about the divorce, though the details of Richard's betrayal had remained surprisingly private. People assumed the usual: growing apart, midlife crisis, the empty nest syndrome. I never corrected them. "He's fine, I think," I said neutrally, focused on his business. It wasn't entirely a lie. Richard had thrown himself into work after the separation, perhaps trying to rebuild what his indiscretions had threatened to destroy. Several clients had left his firm when rumors began to circulate, but most had stayed. Money, I had learned, was often more important than morality in the world of finance. At noon, I left the office and drove to the university, finding my usual parking spot near the humanities building. My American literature class was in an old brick building with ivy climbing its walls, exactly the kind of college setting I had dreamed of as a young woman before life took me in different directions. I slid into my seat just as Professor Bennett began the lecture on Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence. As he discussed the novel's exploration of social constraints and personal desire, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. How many of my choices had been dictated by social expectations rather than authentic desire? How often had I accepted limitations that existed only in my mind? After class, I stopped by the registrar's office to confirm my schedule for the fall semester. 4 courses, a full-time load. The path to my long-delayed English degree was mapped out before me, clear and achievable. With the divorce settlement and my income from the dental practice, I could afford to reduce my hours at work and focus more on my studies. It felt like a luxury, this investment in myself. At home, I continued the packing I had started the previous weekend, wrapping framed photos in bubble wrap and sorting books into boxes. So many objects laden with memories. The crystal vase Richard's mother had given us for our 10th anniversary. The coffee table we had found at an antique store in Vermont during a weekend getaway when Maddie was in middle school. The hand-knit Afghan my grandmother had made before she died. Some items were easy to categorize: keep, sell, donate. Others left me standing indecisive, caught between sentiment and practicality. Did I need the complete set of china we'd received as wedding gifts, used only for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners? What about Richard's books, which he had left behind in his hasty departure, saying he would collect them someday, but never returning for them? I was contemplating this question, a volume of Robert Frost's poetry in my hands, when the doorbell rang. Thinking it might be the real estate agent with a prospective buyer, I quickly smoothed my hair and went to answer it. Richard stood on the porch, looking uncertain and vaguely uncomfortable. He wore a suit, clearly having come from work, but his tie was loosened and his hair slightly disheveled, as if he had been running his hands through it in agitation. "Richard," I said, surprised. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know. I'm sorry to drop by unannounced." He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "I was in the neighborhood and saw your car." "Is it a bad time?" I hesitated, then stepped back from the doorway. "Come in. I'm just packing." He followed me into the living room, looking around at the stacks of boxes and half-empty bookshelves. "So it's really happening. You're selling the house." I nodded. "The realtor thinks it will go quickly, given the market." "And you're sure about this?" He gestured around the room. "This is your home, Ellen." "It was our home," I corrected gently. "Now it's just a house with too many rooms and too many ghosts." He winced slightly at that, but didn't argue. "Where will you go?" "I've made an offer on a townhouse near the university. It's smaller, but it has a lovely little garden and built-in bookshelves in the living room." I was surprised by how easily I could talk to him now, without the anger or pain that had dominated our interactions for months after the separation. "The university?" He looked confused. "I'm taking classes, working toward my English degree." I hadn't told him about this development, realizing now that we had communicated only through lawyers for months. That's wonderful, Ellen." He seemed genuinely pleased, which caught me off guard. "You always loved literature. I remember how you used to read poetry to Maddie when she was little." The mention of our daughter created a natural opening. "She's coming this weekend to help with more packing. She mentioned you two had lunch a few weeks ago." He nodded, a shadow of sadness crossing his face. "We're trying. It's difficult. She's still so angry." "She has a right to be," I said, not unkindly. "You hurt her deeply, Richard. Not just by what you did to our marriage, but by involving someone from her life, her inner circle." "I know." He ran a hand through his hair, that familiar gesture that once made my heart skip, but now evoked nothing but a distant recognition. "I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I did what I did, how I could have risked everything that mattered." I nodded, not sure what response he was looking for. "Forgiveness? Understanding? Absolution? And Veronica?" I asked, surprising myself with the question. "Are you still together?" He shook his head. "No, that ended right after everything came out. She wanted me to choose between her and trying to salvage my relationship with Maddie." He gave a bitter laugh, as if there was a choice to make. So he had chosen his daughter over his mistress. It was something, I supposed. A small redemption in a sea of poor decisions. "I'm sorry things have been difficult," I said, and meant it. Despite everything, I didn't wish him ill. 26 years of shared life couldn't be erased by even the most painful betrayal. He looked at me closely, as if seeing me clearly for the first time in years. "You look good, Ellen. Happy even. It suits you." "I am happy," I realized, the truth of it settling over me with quiet certainty. Not because of what happened, but because of what I've discovered about myself since then. "And what's that?" He seemed genuinely curious. "That I'm stronger than I knew. That I don't need someone else's validation to feel complete. That I can build a life that's authentically mine." I gestured toward the boxes around us. This process, sorting, deciding what to keep and what to let go, it's been therapeutic. "Necessary." Richard nodded slowly. "I've been doing some sorting of my own. Not with possessions, but other things. Priorities. Values." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I owe you an apology, Ellen. A real one. not the self-serving excuses I gave when you first confronted me. I betrayed you in the worst possible way, not just with the affair, but with the lies, the financial deceptions, all of it. I threw away something precious because I was selfish and afraid of aging and desperate to feel important again. His voice cracked slightly on the last words. I studied him. This man I had once known better than anyone else in the world. His contrition seemed genuine, his self-awareness hard-won. Thank you for saying that, I said finally. It matters. I don't expect forgiveness, he added quickly. I know I haven't earned that, but I wanted you to know that I understand the magnitude of what I destroyed, and I'm truly sorry. We stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by the physical evidence of our dismantled life together. Through the window, I could see the maple tree in the front yard, its new leaves unfurling in the spring sunshine. How many seasons had we watched from this house? How many cycles of growth and dormancy, bloom and decay? Would you like some coffee? I asked, breaking the silence. I just made a fresh pot before you arrived. He looked surprised by the offer, then nodded. That would be nice. In the kitchen, I poured 2 mugs of coffee, adding cream to his as I had done thousands of times before. Some habits persisted, muscle memory outlasting emotional connection. We sat at the kitchen table, one of the few pieces of furniture not yet tagged for moving or sale, and talked. Really talked, without agenda or defensiveness, about Maddie, about our plans for the future, about the strange journey that had brought us to this point, not as husband and wife, not as adversaries, but as 2 people who had once built a life together, and now were building separate ones from the same foundation of experience. When he left an hour later, I walked him to the door with a curious sense of closure. Not forgiveness, exactly, but a releasing of the anger that had fueled me through the winter months. I didn't need that fuel anymore. I had found other sources of energy, other reasons to move forward. Good luck with the move, he said at the door, and with your classes. You're going to be an amazing student. Thank you, I replied. And good luck with Maddie. Just keep showing up. She'll come around eventually. He nodded, then hesitated. You know, Ellen, I've been thinking about something you said months ago, when you first confronted me about Veronica. You said I gave you a necklace that was meant for her, but the truth is, I bought that necklace for you. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. Richard, no, really, I did buy it for you, originally. Then, he looked ashamed. Then I bought the matching earrings for Veronica, as a sort of, I don't know, conscience-salving gesture. A way to tell myself I wasn't completely neglecting my wife while carrying on with someone else. He grimaced at his own explanation. It's twisted, I know, but the necklace was always meant for you. I considered this revelation, turning it over in my mind like a curious object found on a beach. Did it matter who the necklace was truly intended for? Did it change anything about what had happened afterward? Thank you for telling me, I said simply. After he left, I went upstairs to my bedroom and opened my jewelry box. The diamond pendant lay there, still in its velvet case, still unworn since that birthday dinner. I lifted it out, feeling its weight in my palm. A beautiful thing, regardless of its history. On impulse, I fastened it around my neck and looked in the mirror. The diamond caught the late afternoon light, scattering tiny rainbows across my reflection. It suited me, I decided. Not because it was expensive, or because it had once been a gift from my husband, but because I chose to wear it, to transform its meaning, to make it mine. The weekend with Maddie passed in a blur of activity, sorting, packing, laughing over rediscovered mementos, sometimes crying over photographs and souvenirs that triggered bittersweet memories. We ordered takeout and ate sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by boxes. We stayed up late talking about her classes, my classes, her new apartment, my new townhouse. On Sunday afternoon, as we were tackling the last corner of the attic, she found a box of my old college textbooks and papers from the 2 years I had completed before meeting Richard. Mom, these essays are really good, she said, flipping through a folder of papers. Your professor gave you all A's. Why did you stop? I sat beside her on the dusty attic floor, taking the folder from her hands. Life happened. I met your father, we got married, I started working to help pay for his business startup. Then you came along. I smiled at her. No regrets there. But you could have gone back later, she persisted. When I was in school, I could have, I agreed. But by then, I had convinced myself it wasn't important anymore, that I was too old, that it wouldn't make a difference. I shrugged. I was wrong. She leaned her head against my shoulder, a gesture of affection that reminded me poignantly of her childhood. I'm proud of you, Mom, for going back to school, for starting over, for everything. I kissed the top of her head, inhaling the familiar scent of her shampoo. I'm proud of us both. We've come through a difficult time, but we're still standing, still moving forward. Do you ever regret it? She asked suddenly. Marrying Dad, I mean, given how it ended. I considered the question carefully. No, I said finally. I can't regret the choices that gave me you, that taught me so much about love and resilience and forgiveness. Your father and I had many good years together before things went wrong. Those years were real, even if the ending was painful. She nodded, seeming satisfied with my answer. I think I understand that. I'm still angry with him, but he's still my dad. That hasn't changed. And it never will, I assured her. The relationship will be different, but it can still be meaningful. It just takes time. We finished packing the attic as the afternoon light began to fade. Maddie had to head back to Boston for an early class the next morning, and I walked her to her car with a mixture of sadness and pride. My daughter, my beautiful, wise daughter, finding her own way through life's complexities. Call me when you get there, I reminded her, as she slid behind the wheel. I will. She rolled down the window after starting the engine. Hey, Mom, that necklace looks really good on you. You should wear it more often. I touched the diamond pendant at my throat, having almost forgotten I was wearing it. Maybe I will. After Maddie drove away, I stood in the driveway for a long moment, looking at the house that had been the center of my life for so many years. Soon it would belong to someone else. Another family would hang pictures on its walls, plant flowers in its gardens, create their own memories within its rooms. And I would move on to a new home, a new chapter, a life reimagined but not diminished by loss. There would be classes to attend and papers to write, a smaller garden to tend, new friendships to cultivate, perhaps someday even a new love, though that possibility seemed distant and unnecessary for now. I was enough, I realized. My life, on its own terms, was enough. As twilight settled over Westlake, I walked back into the house that was already becoming less mine with each box packed, each room emptied. In the kitchen, I made a cup of tea and carried it to the back patio, where I could watch the last light fade from the spring sky. The diamond at my throat caught the dying sunlight, a small point of brilliance in the gathering dusk. Not a symbol of betrayal anymore, but of transformation. A reminder that sometimes the gifts we receive are not what we expected, but exactly what we needed. The necklace hadn't been meant for me originally, but I had claimed it, just as I had claimed my strength, my independence, my future, just as I had reclaimed myself. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the echoes of a life dismantled and a new one taking shape, I raised my teacup in a silent toast, to endings that become beginnings, to betrayals that lead to revelation, to the unexpected gift of starting over.